All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack a mystery I guarantee you've thought about at least once. Have you ever wondered why two people can earn the exact same salary, work in the exact same industry, maybe even live in the same apartment building, yet one ends up incredibly wealthy, while the other is just stuck on this endless hamster wheel, living paycheck to paycheck? Today, we're exploring the internal architecture of wealth. Because, as it turns out, the secret sauce, it isn't raw intelligence. It's definitely not just luck. And crazy enough, it's not even about the size of your paycheck. We're diving into the psychology of money to prove that lasting wealth, it's really just a matter of mind over math.
So, same income, entirely different future. How does that actually happen in the real world? Well, picture this. Two people staring at identical paychecks. Person A immediately takes a chunk of that cash and buys assets, things that are actually going to put more money in their pocket down the line. Person B takes that exact same cash and goes straight for the luxury upgrades, essentially locking themselves into that paycheck to paycheck grind. The absolute game changer between these two, you're not going to find it in a fancy spreadsheet. It's literally all in their heads. It's their psychological relationship with money that's pulling the strings of their future.
Look, we've kind of been sold a lie. We're taught that money is just pure, cold mathematics, right? Budgets, compound interest calculators, savings formulas, the whole shebang. But behavioral economics has totally shattered that myth. The reality is, money isn't just logical math. Our financial choices are heavily, profoundly driven by our raw, unfiltered emotions. Forget the spreadsheets for a second. We're dealing with fear, greed, crippling stress, and wild excitement. These are the heavy hitters dictating how you spend, save, and invest. And that's exactly why two people who both completely understand how a retirement account works can make wildly different choices. One's operating on logic, while the other is just surfing a massive wave of emotion. And honestly, that brings us right to one of the most common emotional traps out there: lifestyle inflation. You know the drill. You bust your back, you finally snag that promotion or raise at work. Logically, your savings account should be getting fatter, right? But boom, emotion kicks in. You're thinking, man, I deserve a reward. Suddenly, you're financing a car with slightly nicer leather seats, or you're dropping $1,000 on a phone just because it has an extra camera lens on the back. You've just bumped up your spending to perfectly match your shiny new income. So how do you actually avoid lifestyle inflation? You've got to create some friction. A massive tip here is to automate your savings the exact second that raise hits your account. Direct that extra cash straight into an investment account before you even have the chance to see it in your checking. Out of sight, literally out of mind.
Because this trap, it is absolutely vicious. When you look at this dynamic, you see that as salary goes up, expenses are just marching right up the stairs with it, step for step. Meanwhile, savings are just flatlining at the bottom. This is the exact reason why so many high-income earners, people pulling in serious cash, never actually get wealthy. Their spending is just aggressively pacing their earning. They're basically sprinting on a financial treadmill cranked up to max speed, but they aren't actually moving an inch forward.
So why on earth do we do this to ourselves? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is this simple phrase right here: comparison is expensive. We live in this crazy era where social media has totally warped our perception of status. We scroll, 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 and all we see are the absolute luxury highlights: the five-star vacations, the glossy sports cars, the designer clothes. But what aren't they showing you? The massive, soul-crushing debt, the sleepless nights, and the immense financial stress holding that entire facade together. Comparing your gritty, behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's perfectly filtered highlight reel is just a one-way ticket to making some really terrible, emotionally driven financial mistakes. Which brings us to a super vital distinction. We've got to separate looking rich from actually being wealthy, because trust me, they are worlds apart. Think about the guy revving the engine of that flashy luxury car at a red light. Sure, he looks incredibly rich, but he might literally be drowning in high-interest debt just to make the payments every month. Now flip that. Think about the person in the modest, kind of boring house, driving a 10-year-old sedan who quietly owns a massive portfolio of investments. Income is just what you earn, but true wealth, wealth is what you keep. It's the money you don't spend. It's those invisible assets that actually buy you freedom rather than the flashy liabilities you buy just to impress total strangers. All right, so we've diagnosed the traps. Let's talk solutions. Honestly, the absolute most valuable financial asset you will ever possess isn't actually money. No way. It's time. Time is the ultimate multiplier. Someone who starts investing small, almost boring amounts consistently at, say, age 20, has an unbelievable mathematical advantage over someone who waits until they're 40 to dump in way larger chunks of cash. When you see that curve rocketing upward as the decades pass,
That's compound growth doing its thing. And the beautiful part? Compound growth exponentially rewards patience over speed. It richly rewards the people who have the sheer discipline to just leave their money to heck alone for a few decades.
But man, patience is tough when the sky is falling, right? Contrast that quiet discipline with one of our biggest emotional enemies, fear. When the stock market suddenly dives and every news channel is screaming about an impending economic apocalypse, people panic. Fear completely hijacks the logic center of their brain. So what do? They sell everything at the absolute bottom, basically locking in their losses just to make the anxiety stop. And then like clockwork, when the panic blows over and prices rebound, they end up buying back in at a premium. Fear is so expensive. Building real wealth means having the guts to ignore the noise, stick to the game plan, and realize that a market drop is just a speed bump, not the end of the world.
Now, as much as we're talking about piling up assets today, I do want to throw up a quick caution sign about the ultimate psychological trap, the happiness illusion. It is so easy to trick yourself into believing that a bigger bank account will just magically fix your entire life. Look, let's be real. Money absolutely helps. For sure, it wipes out a massive amount of stress and opens incredible doors. But you've got to remember that once your basic needs are met, money really doesn't solve everything. Lasting, deep life satisfaction, that comes from stuff you can't buy. It's your relationships, your physical and mental health, your sense of purpose. Financial success and life satisfaction are two completely different dials on the dashboard of your life, and you gotta pay attention to both. Okay, let's bring this all together with the ultimate takeaways of this explainer. The people who actually build wealth over decades, they aren't the ones day trading or chasing the latest hot stock tip. Nope, they are masters of consistency. Remember, wealth isn't a lottery ticket. It's the result of thousands of tiny, boring, everyday choices. If you really want to master the psychology of money, you need to lock in on these 3 daily habits to build wealth. Number 1, live below your means. Always. This is your margin of safety. It's the critical gap between your ego and your income. Number 2, invest regularly. Make it automatic. Make it completely boring and just let time do the heavy lifting for you. And number 3, avoid unnecessary debt like the plague, especially that high-interest consumer debt that literally steals from your future to fund your present. You nail these 3 daily habits, and you absolutely master the game.
Which brings us right down to our final and arguably most important question. At the end of the day, the psychology of money isn't really about the money at all, is it? It's entirely about behavior. Because the most brutal financial battles you are ever going to face aren't happening on Wall Street and they aren't happening in some corporate boardroom. They are happening straight between your ears. So I'm going to leave you with this to chew on. Are you mastering your emotions or are they mastering your money? Take control of your behavior, and I promise you, you've just taken the single most important step toward mastering your financial future.